Good evening, these are the stories making the headlines in the Hot 7 Nightly News. Fabian Cole alias Fat Boy is gunned down in the city in broad daylight. The CSA fears that the abrupt closure of the Blue Hotel has set a dangerous precedent for employers in St. Lucia. Members of the public weigh in on the Scotiabank acquisition by Republic Financial Holdings. We have the details of these stories and more coming up.
This is the Hot 7 Nightly News with Lovely and Amy Joseph.
Good evening. It is Thursday, the 29th of November 2018. Welcome to the Hot 7 Nightly News. I am Lovely St. Amy Joseph. Thank you for joining us. A man is dead following a brazen daylight shooting. Details surrounding the incident are still emerging, but the individual has been identified as Fabian Cole, better known as Fat Boy. He was gunned down near the Adelaide and Francis Memorial Home in Cedars around 2 o'clock. Cole was reportedly with two other males when a vehicle pulled up and its occupants opened fire. A police investigation is underway.
After 1, I left my home for lunch and I saw this little guy right there. He's my friend. I know him from a long time ago. I've known him from a little child. I took him alone. A few minutes after I passed the place, I heard that he was dead.
I feel in a kind of way because I know Fuzzy from Leslieland area is a nice person, you know. I never know him to be like, that's so heartbreaking, my lady. I haven't know to tell you. Real. He's very nice. Although people will say, they was good boys. When thing happened to them, they was good. And then they say that's bad boys, fellas doing a nice papi show, and all kind of thing like that. I just know him to be a irie person. He's a nice boy, loving, he kind. No matter what people will say about them, you know, not everywhere you go, you'll get people to like you. But I know him as a loving individual. I don't know him to be no violent kind of person in kind of way. So I know him to be very loving. He'll have his last dollar, he'll give it to you.
Cole was a resident of Waterworks Road. We will have more details on this story as they come to hand. The Civil Service Association has expressed its fears over the abrupt closure of the Blue Hotel in Rodney Bay. General Secretary Claude Paul believes that the move sets a dangerous precedent for employers in St. Lucia. Rochelle Gonzalez begins our reporting.
In the wake of the abrupt closure of Rodney Bay Hotel Blue, the General Secretary of the Civil Service Association, which was once the bargaining agency for the hotel's staff, has expressed concerns over the ripple effect of such actions. According to reports, on Saturday, Blue employees arrived at work only to find locked gates and a notice of the establishment's closure. On Thursday, Claude Paul said this kind of action is disturbing to say the least, as it could spell the beginning of things to come for both employers and employees in St. Lucia.
There's no protection for workers except when they're in the unions, and sometimes even when they are in the unions. We see what happened again with Lucilec. You go through all the processes, and what happens? The company uses its economic power to fight you, and they'll go to the furthest distance to make sure that they don't do what. And it is a just cause. The company I keep coming back to Lucilec because this is very, very upsetting to persons like myself who are representing workers. We are here to try to make a positive difference, to try to represent our workers, and to do what is right. And this is all we are calling on employers to do. Do what is right.
Blue Hotel has been an establishment that has changed ownership on a few occasions. He continued with details of the discontinued relationship between the CSA and the hotel's employees for presumably malicious reasons.
At the time when it was the Rainbow Hotel, we represented some of the members. But of course, with new management and new arrangements, persons were no longer, they stopped being members of the CSA for whatever reasons. Some of them came back a couple months ago, tried to re-establish links with the CSA, but there was not sufficient members to really bring about a decision by us to register them as a bargaining unit under the CSA. We just didn't have the numbers. And we understood that there was some fear. Fear of management. So it's not surprising today that, this very management closes its doors, not even advising the staff beforehand. So people were reporting for work on Saturday to find there's no job.
The General Secretary said currently only 40% of the island's workforce is unionized, and a major reason behind this is due to bully tactics from employers.
You have companies in the hotel sector who discourage members, also in the business sector, and they have all sorts of ways in which they can do it. And there's a general perception that if you join a union, you might be victimized. And this is not a good environment for industrial peace. And you know, when you hear the Employers Federation, speaking negatively when the CSA takes action, you begin to wonder what's happening in this country. The Chamber of Commerce, very quiet. All sorts of things happening in the country. Our monies are being placed in all different ways, and I have no difficulty in development. But take care of the people.
Attempts to speak to representatives from the hotel have been unsuccessful. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Rochelle Gonzalez.
Thank you, Rochelle. An 11-year-old boy is reportedly nursing head injuries after a private vehicle came into contact with his bicycle. The incident occurred at Mon Repos Thursday morning at about 8. According to information, the Mon Repos Combined School student was on an errand to purchase bread to make sandwiches to take to school when the collision happened. The child was taken to St. Jude Hospital and later transferred to Tapia Hospital, where he is reportedly admitted. In other news, the union representing CCC monthly paid workers says its members are growing increasingly frustrated by an issue of late salaries. The CSC says the CCC is undertaking major projects while paying staff late with no explanation or a word of apology.
CSA General Secretary Claude Paul is outraged over the late salaries to CSA members employed with the CCC. Paul says to add insult to injury, CCC's daily paid workers have been paid while the CSA members have been waiting in vain. Although the month has not ended, Paul argues that CCC monthly workers are not normally paid on the last day of the month.
The general expectation is that CCC monthly paid workers would get paid at the same time of government. And this month, the government's payday was the 26th, which is Monday. But some people had the money available from Friday or Saturday in the banks. So that the CCC workers called in, or some of the members, to say that they had not been paid for the month of November. And up to yesterday, in fact, up to this morning, when I checked, they had not been paid. So it suggests that the CCC may have some financial difficulties. And my attempts to deal with the CEO, Mr. Pierre, suggested that yes, there was some difficulties, but it would be resolved by today. But it has not been resolved so far.
According to Paul, given the extensive work program that the CCC is undertaking, it is disheartening to see such issues with salaries come up. The CSA General Secretary says there is also a wall of silence from the CSA's management while workers get increasingly disgruntled.
At a time when we see the City Council, making a lot of repairs to the building, there's a grand program for National Day, which is good in itself. But we are concerned that while one set of workers at the CCC, the monthly paid workers represented by another union, have been paid on time, the members who are represented by the CSA have not been paid up to today.
Paul has some candid views on why the monthly workers who are CSA members are in such a position.
I figure that maybe the daily paid workers, maybe traditionally are more aggressive. They're represented by a union which maybe they're afraid of that union, but they're not afraid of the CSA.
So what do you think the CSA should do about it?
No, the CSA does not jump into action unnecessarily. I mean, we'd like to get the problem resolved. So our first line of business is to try to find a solution. And so this is what we're about, finding solutions, not agitation, not confrontation, but finding a solution. And if this media pressure will assist in finding a solution, I'm all for that.
The General Secretary is calling on the CCC to establish clear lines of communication so that employees have information relating to their salaries and pay dates.
Meanwhile, the Castries mayor has rubbished the claims by the CSA. The mayor says the CSA General Secretary should know better than to make a mountain out of a molehill. According to the mayor, salaries are not technically late. More in this report.
Castries Mayor Peterson Francis has shrugged off comments by the General Secretary of the Civil Service Association regarding payment of salaries to daily paid workers represented by the union. Francis even went as far as saying that the General Secretary was making a mockery of trade unionism in St. Lucia. On Thursday, CSA's General Secretary Claude Paul made it his duty to call out the mayor for singling out CSA-represented workers, which according to him are yet to be paid. Francis has responded quite candidly.
It's today the 29th of December, and he's saying and he's alleging that the workers here, I mean unionized workers here, have not gotten paid, and after it we are playing one union against the other. Today is the 29th. Mr. Paul said he called yesterday. In what month we are? And Mr. Paul is supposed to know in the trade, you're supposed to know the law, that even though the due date has arrived, okay, let's say the end of November has gone, and we have not paid, the law still gives you about 14 days to pay. So I don't know what is a mockery that Mr. Paul is making.
The mayor has called on the General Secretary to stop playing politics, in particular when it comes to the welfare of the workers that his organization represents.
I'm very surprised at Mr. Paul, somebody who's supposed to have experience. But you're complaining about somebody who did not get paid in November when you're still in November. Now tell me if that's making sense. And let him go and research and do these things before I come on the air and just talk garbage.
For the Hot 7 News, Nisha Charles reporting.
Members of the public are weighing in on the news that the Bank of Nova Scotia has agreed to sell its operations in 9 Caribbean countries, including St. Lucia, to Republic Financial Holdings Limited. While Antigua and Barbuda and Guyana have spoken out since the announcement, St. Lucia has been mum on the issue. Rochelle Gonzalez spoke to the general public about what this might mean for banking in St. Lucia.
On Tuesday, the Bank of Nova Scotia, otherwise known as Scotiabank, dropped a bombshell when they announced that they would be selling all their banking operations to the Republic Financial Holdings Limited for an undisclosed amount. Since then, both the Antiguan and the Guyanese governments, as well as the leader of the opposition, Philip J. Pierre, have expressed concerns over the matter. However, the Alan Chastanet administration have remained silent. Do you think they should speak up?
I think in the banking sector these days, it's becoming more and more difficult to do things. We as a business have tried to get loans and it's more difficult. They ask for more, and having another bank taken away from us, and we don't know what to expect from them. It's becoming more monopolized, the banking system, and that's not good. As we know, any kind of monopoly is not good. I'm not saying it is a monopoly, but it's becoming that way, and that can only mean trouble for us people. So the government really needs to look at this in a big way. It matters to all of us as a nation, and they need to protect us from these things.
There is two sides to a story, right? If you are at Scotiabank, you are a member or a customer, I don't think the government told you which bank to invest in. But however, if what's said about Scotiabank is true, it's something that we can look into and see how best we can deal with it for our St. Lucian people, because we are the ones who make up the country and we are the ones who have to deal with this on a day-to-day basis.
I think the government should really come out and protect the people for true. Because you know why? Because in the future, it's like we were working for them. So right now we need them to come and help us. So the government have to say something. Because in the end, what will happen? People will just lose their monies and lose everything. Just now they're going to be homeless. So the government have to do something.
I am expecting that the government will say something. And I hope that the government will protect the St. Lucian people. Because Scotiabank has been in St. Lucia for a very, very long time. I wouldn't want the people of St. Lucia to be at a disadvantage.
I'm a member of Scotiabank from primary school 1970 to present. I was there up to Tuesday doing an introduction, so I'm not aware of that information. But if that is true, that is quite surprising and alarming. I mean, Scotiabank has been in St. Lucia over 40 years. And to my mind, I thought they were well established, doing well. So to be closing down, pulling out, of course, it's going to have a major effect on us, on our, impact our economy. We have the employed people have their families, their commitments, and just people not. It is going to have an impact on our economy.
Well, you've heard what they had to say. Want a chance to speak your mind? Come join us right here at the William Peter Boulevard next week, Thursday, where you can get a chance to have your say. For Hot 7 News, I'm Rochelle Gonzalez.
Thank you very much, Rochelle. This is the Hot 7 Nightly News. Still to come, minibus drivers are educated about substance abuse and its effects, and the Salvation Army needs your help to make a difference. Stay with us.